Am I wrong for refusing to repay my ex-husband for the college tuition he paid for years ago? So for some background, my ex-husband and I ended things over 20 years ago. When our son was 2, he stepped out. At the time I was a stay-at-home mom and going to nursing school full-time. He was paying for my schooling. After he left, I asked him if he would keep paying for my school so I could finish with no debt. He agreed, saying it was the least he could do. A few months after that, he got his affair partner pregnant. Once she got pregnant, she demanded he stop paying for my schooling. It was 1/5 of their income, and she said that money needed to go towards their new baby. He refused and kept paying for the remaining year and a half I had left. Over the years I continued my education and now I'm a nurse practitioner. I do well for myself and I never remarried. On to the problem. My son called me and told me he and his wife are expecting. I was ecstatic. I asked if I could come over sometime during the weekend by and give them some things, his favorite stuffy as a child, a check, and some other small sentimental things. He said yes, so I went over earlier today. I came by and gave him everything, including a check for a few $1,000s. For baby stuff, co-pays, the nursery, or anything else they may want. My son and his wife thanked me and told me the money would be very helpful. My ex-husband and his wife came over, and a little while later, they surprised them with dinner and didn't know I'd be there, and saw the check on the counter. My ex's wife asked about it and I said, oh well, I wanted to help out where I could. Everything's so expensive nowadays. I was really just trying to be polite, but I don't think this is any of her business. This woman had the audacity to say, well, maybe since you have all this money now you can finally pay us back all that money you took when you went to college. I was dumbfounded. My ex has literally never brought up me paying him back. He's always said it was the least he could do for both me and our son. My ex has done very well for himself in his career. I didn't see how or why they'd need the money, so I asked them, do you guys need the money or something? And my ex said no, and she said of course not, it's about principle. I told her I will absolutely not be paying them back for college tuition from over 20 years ago, especially when she ended up in our marital home while I was living in a small apartment barely making ends meet for years after I initially finished school. I've never been bitter or mean, I've always been civil since our kids are siblings, but my blood was boiling. I left shortly after that. According to my son, this has been a point of contention in their marriage. She's brought it up a few times over the years in front of him. And she's insisting to him that he needs to convince me to finally pay back what they're owed. The biggest issue is now that the whole damn family is involved. I got calls from 3 separate family members saying I need to get over myself and just pay it back. So AITA here? Update. So first I want to clarify some things. Yes, it was our marital home, we bought it after getting married. I didn't fight so hard for it in the divorce for a few reasons, mostly that she was borderline harassing me about how they needed the house for their growing family. I also didn't want to deal with a longer and more drawn out divorce, and it would have been if I fought for the house. Yes, he bought me out of the house, however it really wasn't much as it was late 2007. Most of it went towards credit card debt anyway. Another thing, when he was paying for my schooling we were still legally married. The divorce didn't finalize until after I graduated. There was no child support until after I graduated. There was never any alimony. I did live in the house while I was in school and they lived in an apartment. He paid all those bills including hers after she got pregnant. So his finances were tight at the time. The family that called weren't my relatives. They were my ex's and his wife's relatives. I thought they were family, they've since been blocked. On to the update. I got off work yesterday to find a few missed calls from my son. When I called him back he tells me that his stepmom has now asked for the money from the check since it was almost the same amount they spent on my college. She said it was obvious I'd never pay my debts and that I would just give him, my son, more money anyways. I'm stunned. I'm pissed. I don't know what has possessed her to think to ask my son for money intended for his family. I tell my son to, so next I call my ex. It goes straight to voicemail. I try again a few minutes later and it's the same thing. So I reluctantly call my ex's wife and she answers immediately. I tell her the 3 of us, my ex, her, and me, need to meet first thing in the morning to discuss the debt. I'm thinking this needs to happen in person with all 3 of us so there's no confusion. She agrees. This morning we met at a coffee shop near my ex's work. As soon as they sit down I say, so, ex's wife, want to tell me why you think it's appropriate to ask my son for money? My ex looks at her and says, you asked, our son, for money? She starts on about how she was only asking for the money they're owed and she didn't ask for more than was on the check. Then she says for years we struggled due to paying for your school. For years we couldn't afford a new car, a new house, or a nanny. My kids had to share a room. She goes on about her struggles. I started to tune her out because I keep thinking there's no way she's this deluded. It may have been inappropriate but I laughed. I literally took out thousands in credit card debt to keep me and my son afloat while my at the time husband was shacking up with her and paying her bills. My ex looks at her and says what the hell, ex's wife. I added it's laughable you think you're owed anything from while you were a mistress. We were married when he paid for my schooling, it's quite literally none of your business how he chose to spend money. You had zero entitlement to his money until you said I do, and from what I recall that wasn't until years after the divorce was even finalized. Do not contact me or my son about this money again. You will never see a dime from me. She rolls her eyes and gets up to leave. My ex tells her he's going to stay for a minute. After she's gone he asks why I didn't just call him and tell him about what was going on, said he would have handled it and that it didn't have to go this far. I say I did call him, twice actually, and this is how we figured out she blocked my number from his phone. So those of you who said she's just very insecure, you were absolutely correct. I tell him that she involved his sister, cousin, and his sister-in-law. That I got several calls and texts from them telling me I should just pay back my debt finally. I tell him that she involved the family and then asked our son for money intended for his baby. She's crossed too many lines. He apologizes and says he'll make sure she doesn't bother me about it again. We both leave after that. My son told me he blocked her number and doesn't want her at his house until she apologizes. That's pretty much it for now.